Hello and welcome to I Still Call It a Lariat. I am, of course, stevezapf, the leader of the Legion of Lariats. With me, as always, are my compatriots coming to you from the Showtime Chateau, Mr. Showtime, Michael Wright, and of course, coming to us from his newly renovated Esquire Estates, no longer in a shandy, Scarps Esquire. How you boys doing today?
Good, Steven. Living the dream like usual.
What's up, friends, family, folks listening around the world? How are we today?
Scarps, welcome back. It's good to have you back this week, buddy.
It's good to be here, guys. I hope my absence wasn't sorely missed, but I'm happy to be back and excited to get into some stuff.
I mean,
It was definitely missed, and I enjoy making fun of you to your face rather than when you're not here. It's just way better.
It's way better. It's so much easier. So, guys, we have a pretty great show today. We're going to review AEW Revolution. We're going to talk a bit about Sting. We're going to talk about some of the stuff going on with WWE right now as far as Roman and The Rock and the different things leading into WWE or into Wrestlemania, excuse me. And, of course, WWE has announced their first two inductees into the Hall of Fame. But first and foremost, immediately after recording last week, we lost another legend in the wrestling business. Virgil passed away literally the day after we recorded last week. For anyone in the newer fandom, Virgil unfortunately became a bit of a walking meme, and that's unfortunate because one of my favorite matches of all time is Virgil versus the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase from SummerSlam '91. It was the ultimate babyface versus heel match, to the point where Virgil was hot. I mean, Madison, he popped Madison Square Garden. That's not an easy thing to do, and obviously, we just want to acknowledge the fact that he was a legend, that he did some great things in this world. It's sad that his career and his life got to where it was at the end, but we do send our condolences to his family, his friends, anyone that knew Virgil personally. Again, all our prayers, all of our love to you guys.
Yeah, when he turns on the $1 Million Man, it's one of the biggest pops. Like everyone wanted that to happen. It was great. And a fun fact for those who don't know, both of his names of Virgil and Vincent were like throwing shade at the other company because Virgil was an ode to Dusty Rhodes, and Vincent was obviously to Vince McMahon. So it's just kind of funny that he got those names as he went from side to side.
Hey, I thought we weren't allowed to talk about that other guy.
We're talking about this guy. That's the difference.
Yeah,
touche.
And we haven't actually erased him yet,
even though the Fed has.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's like they're not even there. All right. First thing I want to get into is the Hall of Fame inductees. The first one I want to talk about is actually the lesser of the two. We'll go into the main event for the main event, and that is Bull Nakano. Now I know you boys are not as familiar with Bull Nakano as possibly I am. Bull Nakano is an absolute legend in Japanese female wrestling. She was everything that they want Nia Jax to be right now, but she was actually it. If anyone has any knowledge of some of the past female monsters that we've seen, the Awesome Kongs, the Asia Kongs, things like that, they're all directly influenced by Bull Nakano. She had some bangers even in WWF at the time with Medusa, who was wrestling as the Lunge Blaze, and they tore the house down when female wrestling was not tearing the house down. So I totally agree with this. I think she's very deserving of the spot. Obviously, there are some people in the WWE Hall of Fame who maybe are not as deserving as other people are, and there are some people in there who should be in there that are not in there yet, and we're all hopeful. But this is a nice little nod to Japanese wrestling for someone who did a lot for them in a pretty short time span. The other one, obviously, I completely agree with because we know I am a mark for him, and that's Paul Heyman. He is the main event of the show. As far as wrestling minds go, I think Heyman might be the best one, if not the best, one of the best wrestling minds of recent memory. He's been in the business since God knows when, sometime in the 80s. And he's been on screen since probably 85 or 86 at this point. He's been Paulie Dangerously. He's been Paul Heyman. He's carried giant cell phones. He's carried two phones at the same time. He's managed everyone from Rick Rude to Brock Lesnar to Roman Reigns. Now he's been around tag team champions, world champions. As I said, he is absolutely on my manager Mount Rushmore at this point. I mean, guys, you got anything you want to add to Heyman? He's kind of the guy right now, right?
I mean, well, this is a guy who knows the business in and out, right? Outside of his, let's say, wrestling knowledge, his acumen, the man was a master at cutting promos, right? Helping the younger guys get into the league and do their things, making sure things were done right. You know, not just, hey, man, this is a little haphazard. Let's do it again. Do you think you could do it better? He'd always be in there. He'd work with these guys, make sure they got things done. And, I mean, it's a name that whether you're a fan that's just getting into wrestling or one that's been watching it for 40 years, everybody knows his name. I mean, it's incredible.
He has direct influence on the way wrestling was viewed when we were growing up, right? Like he brought in all of those guys that were then stolen by WCW and by WWE afterwards, stolen, signed, whatever, depending on what story he wants to spin. They were either he was grooming them for them or they were stolen from him, because he will spin whatever story works in the moment. So he really has been so incredibly influential to, I know, our fandom, you know, the business as general. He's been a part of the bloodline technically for 30 years, which is interesting while he's still there now. And I think they'll make a bigger deal about that as they go forward, depending on where the bloodline storyline goes. I think it's interesting that he turned this down in the past. So I'd keep an eye on that to see kind of where his on-screen kind of continues to go. I have not heard anything else. I just know that he wanted to be inducted into the Hall of Fame when he was closer to retirement, and now he said yes. I believe that that's mostly due to the fact that WrestleMania is in Philadelphia. That he has the biggest storyline out there. In the Hall of Fame, he might be able to run some storylines that include the Hall of Fame that no one else would be able to do. So that, like, he kind of just opens up Pandora's box of storylines. But something to keep in mind, as he had already said in the past, that he wanted to be in the Hall of Fame closer to his retirement. And though, of course, it's closer to his retirement than last time, this is something just to keep an eye open for. I think there's also something to be said about this being Triple H's first full Hall of Fame class, and being a part of that could mean something special to him as well. So he's a legend. He's a living legend at this point in time. He's done more for the business than almost anyone else, and it's so well deserved.
Yeah. I mean, just completely. How influential is just ECW? But I mean, just look at in the last, let's say, 15 years of WWE, the guys that he has been associated with. He's been associated with Brock, obviously, Punk, now Roman. I agree with you. I think we might be getting a little closer to the end of this, especially if they are going to be cutting off the bloodline story a little bit. I could see if they flip flop Roman and make him maybe a tweener or a baby face, or the baby face in the angle, that maybe Heyman doesn't come back with him at that point.
But at this point in time, he makes anybody he goes with, right? Like tomorrow, the bloodline falls apart, and he then manages Braun Breaker in a year. Braun Breaker is the world champion. Yeah. So in that phase, he doesn't have to do anything he doesn't want to at this point in time. He's already done everything. Everything else is just the cherry on top of an excellent career. He's actually someone who doesn't even consider himself a manager. There's a couple of cool interviews if you go looking for them, where he doesn't think he's a manager. Like, he's not one of the greatest managers of all time because that's not what he is. It's a fun way on how he spins that, almost kind of creating his own category where he's the only one that exists in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very Heyman-like.
Very Paul Heyman. But I think again, these are two very deserving people to go into the Hall of Fame. I'm always excited every year to see who is going into the Hall of Fame. It's one of those things that I love seeing, having been in the business and having been closely associated with it as I have been. I like to see people who gets their flowers and maybe who doesn't get their flowers that maybe deserves it. I like when they kind of stick with people who are in similar parts of the class. I don't know if that's what they're doing this year, where, oh, it's an all ECW class or it's an all WrestleMania 1 class or blah, 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 blah. That they do that one a lot. And I don't think that that's where they're going with this. I think now they're kind of looking at, this might be people who are either closely related to Triple H or that Triple H really admires this year. As we've said, this is the first time he fully has control, or as Esquire so eloquently put, has the helm. Zlee.
No, leave the puns to him.
All right, guys.
Wait, Steven, before we move on, I actually love the idea of next year being that ECW class. Like, so you have Paul inducted this year. Next year, he takes over. And this is my class. Yeah. And that's one of the storylines that I said that we're kind of spinning. I do think that over the next couple years, you're actually going to see it be harder and harder to get into the Hall of Fame. I think that happens in every major sport and every major Hall of Fame, that the longer it exists, the harder it is to get in. If you look at the Baseball Hall of Fame in itself, there's players that are in that Hall of Fame that if they played today, they would never come close to it. And there's people who are held out who they're like, oh, they'll never make it. They weren't good enough, but have stats that like throw shade all over some people. Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the things I'd like to see in the future, is like seeing this kind of get a little bit harder to get in. But luckily enough, they don't have any of these like these precedents where it's like, if you don't get in by 3 votes, you never get in. So there will always be a way to get some old legends back in and kind of celebrate them in that way. But I would like to see it get a little bit harder, because as we've said, there's some people in there who maybe shouldn't be. They were great in a moment in time, and while they were still around, let's make sure that we get them so they can be here. Whereas when you get a little bit further in the future, you can look a little bit more post-mortem and get those people in.
Well, and I know you and I had spoken about this, Mike, that maybe it would be cool to have, like, I know they have like a celebrity wing, if they did, instead of just, oh, we're going to do an all ECW class, do like a territory wing where, okay, we're going to have Paul Heyman induct all of ECW. Like, the ECW promotion is now in the WWE Hall of Fame. Have Kevin Von Erich come in and induct World Class Championship Wrestling. Have Greg Gagne come in and actually induct AWA. Something along those lines, where, especially now that he's not involved and Triple H is involved, is the main guy calling the shots. Some of these guys that got burned in the 80s might be a little bit more adept to coming in and working with them.
Well, listen, sunscreen wasn't that big a deal in the 80s, so there were a lot of people getting burned.
This is true.
You're welcome.
Thank you, buddy. It's good to have you back.
Listen, I'm here for you guys.
Glad a week hasn't changed anything. Jesus Christ. Okay. Showtime, you've been kind of our lead on the WWE stuff. I'm going to let you kind of take that over. Do you want to start with the Roman stuff, or you want to maybe start with Dirty Dom?
No, I think I'll start with the Roman stuff and kind of WWE in general. So right now, I think clearly the hottest storyline out there is the Bloodline, Cody, Rollins storyline. It's absolutely epic. I love every minute of it. The Rock coming back has been the best thing that's happened to wrestling in a long time, probably since the last time he came back. He brings so many people into the storylines. I love how quickly he became the most evil guy out there. It takes a lot of brass for someone who is probably one of the most biggest movie stars in the world to come out and tell one of the largest markets that they're all a bunch of meth heads. I appreciate that. Like he's all in. Like that wasn't. He's not pulling punches whatsoever.
No,
he's in.
Yeah, he's kind of he it. I do agree with you. Originally, he did kind of flip a little quickly on that, but
yeah, he went maniacal overlord real fast.
But then
he went full rock. I mean,
he went back.
He went full rock.
Yeah. He has fully just owned it, and he's not even just Hollywood Rock. He's just a douche.
Yeah, he's bloodline rock, right? Like all he cares about is himself, his family. He's completely owning that persona. I will say I was a little disappointed in that SmackDown in general. You had a 40-minute bloodline promo, which if it was 40 minutes of talking, I would have been all for it. But it was kind of like 20 minutes of talking and 20 minutes of just waiting to build anticipation, and would have loved to have seen that tightened up a little bit. If The Rock is going to talk, I'll give him the full SmackDown. Just put him in the middle of the ring and just talk all night, and we're good. But the whole just waiting and repeating yourself over and over again, you're killing time from cutting matches. And I know there's a rumor going around that it cut like a 5-minute Austin Theory match, but sure, I'll give up a 5-minute Austin Theory match any day of the week. What I want to see is them cut that 40 minutes down to 20 minutes where it's all the content they had, and add a nice 15-minute match that would have been worth listening to. And then they redid another street fight, even though like Carlito, his father being so inspirational, building out that kind of street fight. Like I get why you did that, but like don't do it back-to-back weeks. There was 2 squash matches in that. There just wasn't enough wrestling for me in that SmackDown. I will say this week, this Raw was great. Cody and Rollins had a great promo. I'm not gonna use the Rollins new nickname for The Rock because I'll go the Cody route and just still keep calling him The Rock. I thought the highlight of it for me was actually the Gunther Dirty Dom match. I can't tell you how excited I am for Dominic Mysterio to develop into a strong wrestler. I hope that happens because I don't know if I've ever seen someone who's so over with the crowd. Every time he picks up the mic, the boos are deafening. The Rock just called an entire city, an entire state, a bunch of meth heads, and Dom still has more heat than he does. It's amazing on how much a mullet can do. And the ring psychology within that was great. Gunther picking him up and not letting the match be over because he just wanted to beat up Dom a little bit more. And then Dom coming a couple times close to an upset win. That's ring psychology. I made it clear there's a few moves that I think are completely overdone these days, and I think chops are one of them. I think there's too many chops in matches. No one's going to win a match through chops. And obviously Gunther has a lot of that in his matches, but he's so talented that for him, I like that. I just don't want everyone else to just go into chop fests. I have a list of moves that I would like to see outlawed these days. Super kicks, because you get 5 of them a match. If you hit 5 super kicks in a row and you can't pin somebody, they are no longer super. They are just kicks. I would like to see no more spears unless you were actually in the NFL, because everybody is throwing one of these days. We'll get into Revolution, but every single one of those matches kind of seemed like they were almost the same match. Like, let's stop running. Let's stop ending every match with a power bomb. The weak taunt kicks, having that 3 or 4 times. Anyone rolling to the corner in order for someone to hit something off the top rope. Like, just the opponent, if he's too far, drag him to the corner. They used to do that all the time. And now no one does that because I have to race to the top rope. And if I'm halfway across the ring, I have to roll to get in the position. Steve, you and I know this firsthand. You gave me a super kick once. I was too far out of the corner to take an elbow off the top rope. Did I roll to the corner? No, you just have to jump the whole ring and absolutely devastate me on the mat.
Yeah, it hurt everyone.
It hurt everybody.
Even the ref.
And I don't want to see people hurt at all, but that's how the matches go. And the finger grinds. Let's leave that to 1 or 2 people. You can't do that every single time when it doesn't make sense. There's just a lot of the parody that's going through. Even But I thought this. I had a lot of thought on this one. They kind of, I don't want to say stole this spot, but there was a spot where Kingston chopped the post at Revolution, and then Dom and Gunther did the same spot on Raw. And I'm not going to say they stole it, but if anyone is going to steal a spot from somebody else from a pay per view and use it, let it be Dom. Now let's get not just heat with the with the crowd, but let's get heat within the wrestling community as well. Like it's a solid move in my opinion. So overall, I thought Raw was great. I thought there was a lot of good things. The main event was so predictable of how that's going to go. Jay is going to get screwed every single time until Mania, and then probably get screwed at Mania. And I think right now, I know I talked a lot about Dom, but McIntyre is another one who I am so over right now with. I think he is he's crushing it. Like you've said this before, the best heels are the ones who don't think they're heels. And in all honesty, I don't think Drew McIntyre is a heel. He's not a face, but he's not a pure baby face by any means. But he is literally telling everybody, if you're going to keep doing this stuff, I'm going to take my victories and I'm going to take my belt and I'm going to go home and I'm going to be pissed about it because Rollins, you're not paying attention to me and you're going to lose this belt to me and then it's going to be tainted and I have to deal with that BS. Okay. And how dare you? He sounds like a little bit of a salty ex-girlfriend right now.
Listen, but you know, Showtime and I usually disagree on a few things, right? We go head to head. I got to say, for the first time, I'm in complete agreement. And to paraphrase him slightly, there is just way too much fingering in professional wrestling.
So much fingering in professional wrestling.
Way too much fingering.
Too much.
I'm being hypercritical, and I get that. Like I do that particularly around matches. Like I get hypercritical, but that's because I think we're in pretty much an agreement that I feel like we're on the precipice of maybe like a new golden era or a golden age of wrestling. Like you have so much going on. Maybe some of the best talent I've ever seen. I think that the WWE and AEW probably has the best top to bottom talent I've ever seen. Yeah. Like maybe there's been better wrestler. Like Bret Hart is one of the best fundamental wrestlers I've ever seen. I don't think anyone's on his level at this point in time from him in his prime. But if you take a look at any of these rosters from top to bottom, they might beat the talent top to bottom in any other era of wrestling. I just want to see them really hone in, take us to the next level, and really have a product that you can't complain about because I can taste it. It's right there.
Yeah, we've said this for the last couple of weeks. I think they're close. It's they just need to figure out what it is that they need to do to get to that level, to figure out a name for what this is called.
They need to wrestle.
They need to wrestle.
Get some more of the wrestling in there.
The only thing I will add to what Showtime has said is where you're saying that no one is ever going to beat somebody with a chop. I think Gunther might be the exception to that rule.
Well, we were talking about this the other day. If I can believe that his chops are trying to clap somebody's lung to win that match via asphyxiation, I'll listen to that story, and I'll buy that.
And I kind of buy it from Gunther. He's that guy. Like he's not out of shape, but he's not the muscle head that everyone else is. Like he has such a different look. I'm a huge Gunther guy. Like, and it's real hard for you to go from a name that you've made for yourself over several countries and then change your name and still make it just as important as the name that you had previous, if not more important, because he went from being Walter to being Gunther, and they were mad about it. Like fans were pissed that they switched his name over, and now no one talks about it. No one cares.
Well, he brought the same style. It's a slight switch in name. I get it. You get locked on that stuff, but he's given the Intercontinental champion to be proud of. This is like 80s, 90s Intercontinental level stuff. Like I fully believe that this is the secondary title. He has been a champion that is worthy of that title, and vice versa. Like that's a title that's worthy of Gunther. So like in this situation, that's what I want to see. When you pass it around too much, or you don't have that much talent fighting for it, like the minute he drops this IC title, he's world title contender. There's zero questioning of that, and that's what this belt's meant to be. And him holding on to it so long and doing what he's done with it, the people he's beaten with it, I think it's monumental. And now we have a gauntlet match coming up to decide who's going to be his number one contender. Kind of the way you want to see it. I want to see more of a tournament rather than a gauntlet, but at the same time, I wouldn't even be surprised if actually two of the six people come out on top and end up doing another three-way for the IC title at Mania, because it seems like Chad Gable is right in line to kind of compete for it. And obviously Sammy is the other one. Like, I'm rooting for Sammy to take this because I want to see Gunther Sammy. I think it's going to be a good match for WrestleMania. I don't want to see Sammy be like an odd man out at Mania and not really have anything to do. So that's what I'm rooting for, but I can actually see both of those guys proving that they deserve to be in that spot against Gunther. And then you make it a three-way. Gunther doesn't get pinned. He still looks strong, but loses the title, sort of thing.
I think if it's a one-on-one match, either way, the two guys that you just named, Sammy or Chad Gable, they get a really nice sympathy play off of it, because you got Gunther being this monster, being this just bully. And I think with Chad Gable, it's very much, which is funny because we're talking about an Olympic level wrestler being bullied by somebody. And then it's more like, okay, we're finally changing him from almost a comedy act to, no, I'm before I leave, I want to do something that my kids can see, that we can do that, a lot more serious stuff. Where Sammy's the one that's down on himself right now, right? Like you could see him. All right, I need this match. I need this match. I need this match. I do like that about him. The one thing I will go along with you is the second that Gunther loses the title, he is absolutely in world title contention. It's one of the few times I would love for them to do it in a three-way in that case. Not necessarily at Mania, but I would love for him to lose it in a case where he didn't have to lose it and immediately say, now the obvious choice would be for me to ask for a singles match to get my title back. I'm not doing that. I want the big belt. I want to go directly after the world title now. I did all I can do for that title. Now I want the world title or the WWE title or whichever one he happens to go after at that time.
I can also see them giving him the Warrior treatment, right? He doesn't drop the title at Mania. I think everyone's convinced he's dropping the title at Mania. He's done everything he can with it. It's done everything for him that it could. So I think that's the anticipation for him to finally lose this title somehow, some way. But at the same time, I could definitely see him keeping it. This being like, you threw everybody at me and no one can stand toe-to-toe with me. This is my belt, and I'm going to go after the big belt. I'm going to go after Drew McIntyre, or I'm going to go after Cody, or whoever ends up being the champion at the time, and going that route. And I'll pop for it. After he wins the title, Triple H makes him vacate the IC title, and you do a nice King of the Ring for it, or something along those lines.
I could also see them doing so TNA does this with their X Division title. I don't know if they're still going to be doing it, but they used to have it be they would call it Option C. And how it worked was Austin Aries originally had originated where he did it was when Hogan was still there, and he said, well, I'm main eventing every show, whether I'm on the main event or I'm the first guy on the card, my match is the main event. I've held this title longer than anybody. I think it's time that you give me my world title shot. I think I deserve it. And Hogan said, well, you can either hold on to the X Division title and just keep being the X Division champion. You can hand over the X Division championship and we can give you a world title shot. Austin Aries had come up with, he called it Option C, where I don't think they're going to do it in this way. I think it's going to be more of, we'll give you the world title shot, but you have to hand over the IC title first. I like the Option C one just because what he did was he set a precedent where around the time of year when the Destination X pay-per-view was coming around, every year the X Division champion got the option to turn in the world title or turn in the X Division title to go after the world title. And I thought that was really cool. I don't want them to do that with the IC belt just because I think that would diminish the IC belt, but it would be cool to do it with almost like a TV title or something like that. Like I know you keep talking about bringing in a TV title, or maybe like, hey, you're the NXT champion. You've been the NXT champion for 6 months. You want a shot at the US title? Turn and every year give the NXT champion a chance to go after a main roster title, because your NXT champion should be on main roster level. So I could see them doing something like that with it. But I love Gunther. To echo what you said, I love Dom. I think Dom is doing amazing character work right now. I could see him being just a great manager at one point, but just being honestly, if Heyman is closer to the end than he is to the beginning, which he probably is, I could see him being a new sniveling version of Paulie Dangerously. Even give him the giant cell phone. Just have him walk around with it. Have him really piss everybody off. Have him walk around in a suit that's 3 sizes too big. Have him have a tennis racket in one hand and a giant cell phone in the other, and just piss off everyone.
Steal every manager gimmick
Every manager gimmick. Sequent name on the back, like Heenan, just everything. Like, do every manager gimmick. Because, I mean, as it is, he's stealing Eddie's and Ray's moves, so you might as well just steal everything else and piss everybody else off by doing it.
Well, I mean, what he's stolen from Uncle Eddie and his father, it's closer. But I'm with you. Take heat however
stealing
you get
from
it.
Both his fathers.
Both of his fathers, which one, whatever it is.
Overall, I think WWE in general is they're in a good spot. I mean, they're in a good spot leading into Mania. I think Triple H is doing all the things he's supposed to be doing right now. The only thing that I would like to see Triple H maybe do a little bit more, that we said Vince did too much. It's one of those things where you do one too much one way or one too much the other way. You're kind of not getting enough of a balance. I don't want to see him always listen to the fans, because being both a worker and a fan, I can honestly tell you sometimes the fans are wrong. They are. They get it wrong. Like, they say they want something, and then when you give it to them, it ends up being not what they want.
I've never been wrong, by the way.
You know what? That's for a different show. Mike, you had brought up the match earlier with me and you where I dove across the ring. I don't know how much of that match you remember, but I remember the fans chanting "boring" to us in the beginning of the match. And
that is rude.
It is very
It was rude.
And for anyone who doesn't know Mr. Showtime Michael Wright as well as I do, which that's pretty much everyone in the world, when at shows or in any scenario really, his hearing is terrible.
I can't hear anything out of my right ear anyway.
Yeah, absolutely, to replay. And we've been at wrestling shows before. We've been in the crowd. We've been the people chanting what is being chanted, and he still couldn't understand what the crowd was saying.
What are they saying right now?
Meanwhile, we are in the middle of the ring, in the middle of having a match, and all of a sudden I hear Mr. Showtime look at me from a headlock and go, "They're chanting boring. Should we change up what we're doing?" And I had the only response I could think of. "Do you trust me?" "No, never." "Do you trust me in a wrestling ring?" "Yes, always." "Then shut up. We're telling the story. They're not telling us the story." Sometimes you have to accept that what you're getting in chapter 1 is not what you're going to get at the end of the book. And
a spoiler, they were on their feet at the end of that match. That match was absolutely awesome.
Yes. In fact, we should have stolen the show if it weren't for a couple of other guys that did just stupid stuff.
Yeah, they were awesome in that other match. There was a 3-way match, and they were flying all over that VFW hall or whatever it was.
But yeah, like I said, WWE, I think I agree with you, Showtime. I think we're on a precipice of something amazing just in wrestling. I keep saying that we're about to um, get into a point where there's just going to be so much wrestling amongst everything that it's a renaissance of pro wrestling. Really, if you don't like WWE, you don't have to watch WWE. And it could be as simple as I don't like Raw. Okay, well you have SmackDown. I don't like Raw and SmackDown. Well, you have NXT, which is still very different product than the other two. And if you don't like any of that, you have AEW, you have Ring of Honor, you have Major League Wrestling, you have Japan, you have promotions that are in England that are doing amazing stuff right now, like Rev Pro and stuff like that. There's not there's not this like small niche of pro wrestling that is the only thing that we can watch now. And the internet has made the world a much smaller place. So you can always find what you're looking for. And in the same sense, I like old wrestling. We all like old wrestling.
I like Trish Stratus.
What is she
Just,
against?
I don't know if I can make that any more clear. She is an international treasure. I love her.
Steve, to go back to Triple H listening to the fans as well. I love when he listens to the fans when he's wrong, and not listening to the fans when he's right.
Yeah.
I think that there's a difference there. Like not like listening to the fans and giving Cody Roman was the right move. You had been building that story for over a year. He had won the Rumble twice. It was clearly the way he was going, and then just giving him Rollins was flat. It just didn't make sense. There's other storylines where like people are starting to chant people they like or the wrestlers using the social media to get over. I love it. Like help put that, like the people want to see them, help put them in line. Don't change things that you've been building for a year or two. Like don't take away that culmination because someone is starting to get hot in the moment. Because you could use that momentum next as you line up the next wave of these storylines.
Yeah, don't change up don't change how you're telling the story. Like maybe change the end of the story, but or it's a separate story. Like not everyone has the same story. So if you're telling, I know the big thing is now is telling the story in wrestling or finishing the story in wrestling. Listen, man, I wrestled for 20 years. I've been a fan for my entire life. Everything is a story. You're always telling a story. You are a storyteller in that ring. You're a storyteller in the promotion. So how you start and how you finish should it what's in the middle is what gets changed. It might get changed up a little bit, but it has to change in accordance to what you're doing. You can't just insert somebody that hasn't been there. All of a sudden you become, you know, who is the cousin in the Brady Bunch that they just brought in for no reason. All of a sudden you get that going on. You start jumping sharks and stuff like that. There's just no reason for it.
Well, I think even the Cody finishing his story like moniker is ridiculous because it makes it sound like he beats Roman and then retires because his story's over, right? There's what else are you going to tell except for he's going to have this run as the baby face of the company. Like that's still like part 2 is coming in that story. Well, hopefully, as long as he wins or whatever they do afterwards. Though you know my point of view. I'm leaning more and more that he's not going to win this match, and then we're going to continue to talk about finishing his story forever.
It could happen. It could happen. More people are coming along with your theory that Rollins is gonna screw him, which also goes along with other rumors that I'm hearing. Again, I think that's just the other ones are fake news, but things about Moxley possibly coming back at Mania too, which I could, if that were true, I could see that turning into part of it. I don't think that's true though. Not the way that they're building him up across the street. Speaking of across the street, they had a pay-per-view this past weekend. They had AEW Revolution 2024. It was in the Greensboro Coliseum in Greensboro, North Carolina. Mr. Esquire and I were both there. The crowd was amazing. They were absolutely hot. I think that the show was good. I think the send off for Sting was great.
It was amazing, actually.
I think the show itself was good. Real quick to go over, we'll go over what our predictions were. Scarps, you were not here last week, so you were still at the bottom of this listing.
Well, technically, we all have the same amount of wrong predictions now.
Oh, that's true.
It just took us an extra 9 matches to get to him.
That's completely accurate.
Okay. Okay. I see where we're at, boys.
Yeah.
That's what you missed last episode, bud.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I wasn't here, okay? So screw you guys.
But by the way, it also took us an extra 9 matches and me an extra 5-hour road trip into Georgia to get there. Love you, buddy.
Hey man, I'm gonna pretend like I didn't hear any of that. So I'm just trying to sign into Facebook right now. Don't mind me.
All right. So first match, they changed it from the Meat Madness match, which thank heaven they changed that name, to it became an 8-man scramble. And it was everything that you expected an 8-man scramble to be. I realized that this is the first match that we have listed on here. This was not the actual first match on the card, just for the record.
Yeah, there's two dark matches in that.
There were 2 dark matches on there as well. They were, we watched the first one. We watched the 12-man match, and it was okay. Halfway through the second match, that was when we tried to go get merch, which they completely sold out of Sting merch everywhere. The sizes from large and up were no longer a thing, which is awesome. But they did it, but basically before the show ever started. With that, to go back to the formerly known as Meat Madness match, Wardlow won that. We all kind of just assumed Wardlow was going to win it. He's getting the biggest push. It was a spot fest at best. It was a bunch of people doing things while other people laid on the outside of the ring, and especially being there live, all you see is bodies on the outside of the ring lying there, not doing anything. Dante Martin tried to do something really cool and completely just botched it. Looked like he landed on his head on the apron or something like that, and then tried to cover it up by running back up to the top rope to do something. That was the thing. There was so many somethings in that match where I wasn't in on this one. They did some cool stuff, but I think even by the end of it, and I know Scarps, you're usually a little bit more into some of the spot monkey matches than Showtime or IR. I think even by the end of it, you were like, I don't even know what's going on anymore. And one of the things that we both said is they never set the rules to the match, and I haven't gone back to rewatch the pay-per-view yet. So Showtime, I know you watched it on pay-per-view. Did they go over the rules of the match when they before they came out or anything like that?
Yeah, they talked about it throughout the match. It's the first fall. It kind of fell through, but it was showcasing the big guys and then showcasing the little guys, giving everybody their 2 minutes of FaceTime. I've never seen an 8-man scramble type match look cohesive. It's just too many people, and so
just way too much.
Just too many. Like, you could have done the 3 people who were originally slotted for this, like Wardlow, Hobbs, and Archer, and then add Jericho because you were looking for a way to get Jericho's name on the card. Go nuts. It was too many people, too many different styles. They didn't do enough around the ring to like keep it moving. Like, this wasn't an elimination chamber match where you believe that everyone was dead and they had an excuse to lay around on the side. All of a sudden someone jumps out of the ring, hits you, and you're down for 10 minutes. It just didn't flow well. I like that Wardlow got the win here. We both picked that. And I have some predictions on where I think that's going to take Wardlow, because clearly the world title match, which we'll get into a little bit, the three-way there, has implications after that one. Wardlow being the number one contender at this point in time, and everything not going down so cleanly, as you could say, in the world title match, leads to its own kind of storylines. So that's kind of the way I saw that match, and that's it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Scarps, you got anything to add with this one, or?
Yeah, dude. I mean, we were there, right? During that entire match, Steve and I are looking at each other like, what the hell is going on, dude? What are the rules? Why are these jamokes sitting outside the ring just laying around? One guy's sliding in, one guy's rolling out of the ring. I honestly had no idea what I was watching. And I had said to Steve at one point, I was like, it'd be really cool if they would just say something over the PA system,
Yeah.
Get on the microphone and be like, by the way, here's what's going to happen. Like, there was no really
anything.
Nothing. Yeah, we got nothing. I was shocked. I didn't know what was happening.
If they had just put a graphic up on the screens,
yeah,
just explaining what the rules were, that at least they had that liability there. Like, they could have been like, oh, yeah, that's what's going on. Like, hey, okay, here's the rules. It's first fall to a finish. However you get the win is how you get the win, blah, 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 blah. No, none of that. Also, the fact that it's an 8-man scramble and it's automatically no disqualification or anything like that, like, anytime I hear no disqualification, I just automatically assume it's lazy booking. I don't like the fact that this is considered a no disqualification match just because it's a multi-man match. That's stupid. I think that I had heard someone else say this, one of my friends on a different forum. I think if this match is going on, you're right. You can't win the match via disqualification. But I think if someone had busted out a chair and hit somebody with it, they should have disqualified that person. Congratulations, you're not in the match anymore. I think that would have made it so much more interesting. And like, all of a sudden now you've got a little bit more of a rule set and a little bit more of a structure to it. And it gives it an air of psychology to it. Again, this is clearly none of our favorite matches. I just wasn't in. Going to what was the actual opening match on the card and might be Mr. Showtime's favorite match, Christian Cage as the TNT champion versus Daniel Garcia. Unfortunately, this was during the hour-long wait that we were in the line for. Us and both me and Showtime got this one correctly. Christian Cage came out as champion still. He did it via shenanigans.
By the way, I would have gotten that one right, boys. I just want to go on the record and say that. So far, I'm batting 1,000 for this event because I haven't made any official predictions. I love it.
Well, yeah, Scarps, that's a good point. You did technically get 0 wrong this pay-per-view, and
thank you.
That applaud, golf clap.
Thank you, boys. Thank you.
I went back and rewatched. This is actually the only match that I've had a chance to rewatch on the pay-per-view. I think this was very good. I halfway would have liked less shenanigans. I didn't need the entire patriarchy down there or something. I don't know. Maybe it's just the fact that it was a 9-match show. There was a lot going on just in general. There was just a lot.
Hey, can we talk about the lack thereof or just how slow the refs were at doing outside of the ring countdowns?
Outside of the ring countdowns.
This match especially.
Pinfalls.
Everything. They were I don't know if it was intentionally slow or they were just out of it.
They just don't count. They just don't. And I was like, even pinfalls, we were talking about it in the last like 4 matches. Every time it was like 1, 2, and like it wasn't even like they brought their hand down. Like it was this slow motion 3. And I'm like, listen, if you count it, it's the wrestler's fault. It's not your fault. You're trained that way as a referee. So it's little things like that. AEW needs to clean that stuff up. it makes it confusing to fans if you have rules that you don't follow. Or as I said in the case with the formerly known as Meat Madness match, if you don't explain the rules to begin with. The one thing which seems to be a recurring theme on this show, and that I do go along with this match, is why are we kicking out of pile drivers, guys? Why are we kicking out of pile drivers?
That's going to be a running thing.
Yeah, it's going to be a recurring theme. Here's the thing. I liked that a lot of the stuff that happened with Christian Cage and Daniel Garcia was Cage being a cowardly heel. I'm always a fan of a cowardly heel, and he plays a great one. He plays a great sniveling idiot. I mean, this is a guy whose nickname was Creepy Little Bastard. I love that a lot of it was him getting a hand on the rope or him getting a foot on the rope or this, that, and the other thing. That I'm fine with. Don't kick out of pile drivers though. Don't if you have the full weight of your body dropped on your head, you shouldn't just be out cold. You might be dead.
And I'll tell you what, look, they sold some of those pile drivers, dude. We were sitting in the stands, like I gasped a few times. I looked over at Steve and I was like, holy bro, like this is out of control.
Yeah,
they were solid.
Yeah, I don't know if there is a card, a match on this card that the person shouldn't have been in traction afterwards. They kicked out of that. I think that Christian Cage was awesome in this match, though. I absolutely loved what he played, that cowardly heel. There's one spot that kind of just summarizes the whole thing for me when he goes to leave the corner, and then it looks like he blows out his knee or his ankle, and he hits the ground, and then like really eats that up that time. It was great. He was obviously faking, but like he was holding on to it long enough to be like, oh no, I actually think he might really have gotten hurt.
Yeah.
Like you could tear your ACL just by twisting slightly. And I started to be like, did he just tear his ACL? And then eye poke and moved on. And then the cooler thing after that was Daniel Garcia then went and worked that leg the whole match. So it was more like, oh, you're going to fake you're hurt? Well, now you're really going to be hurt. And I really liked that kind of mentality in the ring to like tell that story to the crowd. And it really hit home for me. I thought this was definitely one of the better matches of the night, one of the ones I enjoyed the most. And it was the storytelling that really got me.
Yeah. I thought the storytelling was good on this one. Hold on. There we go. I think overall it was the cleanest wrestling match out of everything that we saw that night. Let's see.
Including Takeshita?
I thought Takeshita and Will Ospreay put on a hell of a show. There was
one moment during that match where I was like, ooh, it was a little, but outside of that, I thought it was an extremely technical and clean match. Outside of that one, oops, you know?
Yeah. I'm going to try to, unfortunately, how we have it written here, I'm going to go a little bit out of order on this one for us, guys. I'm going to try to go in order of the show as best I can. I'm going to go with Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson for the Continental Crown title. It was good. I don't know if it was great. I know me and Showtime have talked about it. I don't know if I really like Kingston as much either. I used to be a little bit more of a fan of his, to the point of he's not young, and neither is Danielson, and both of them are kind of, I think they're starting to show it a little bit. Maybe you shouldn't do everything. You shouldn't try to do everything that you used to do. Like, listen, man, I'm guilty of it too. Like, I can't run like I used to. I can't jump like I used to. Like, none of us are able to do everything that we used to do, or at least not as well as we used to do it.
Can you eat a suplex from the apron to the floor?
I would not do a suplex from the apron to the floor. That's the difference.
Because that happened.
That did happen. There were certain things, and again, this is a lot of stuff. They do a lot of things that are very Japanese strong style influenced. Unfortunately, the stuff that they do in it that are Japanese strong style influenced is stuff I hate. I hate the machine gun chops. I hate the soccer kicks. I think they're both weak ass looking moves, and there's no nice way of putting it. They're just what looks cooler, Gunther winding back and hitting one huge chop that makes it look like it completely caves your chest in, or Eddie Kingston hitting you with 20 chops that are about an inch away from your chest.
They look about as strong as Samoa Joe's jabs.
Yep, that.
And I like, bro, I like Samoa Joe, but I digress.
All around, I think this might have been some people's favorite match. It was not mine. I thought Kingston. I believe I kept saying to you, Scarps, during the show, like every time I'd look over, Kingston just looked dead. You're supposed to be. You're technically the babyface in this situation, and there is no life to you until you do a move. I don't buy it. I don't believe you. I don't believe what you're selling me anymore, because you shouldn't be dead. You should have some sign of life in you. There needs to be a reason why I sympathize that you're there, and I didn't have it. I didn't have any sympathy for Eddie Kingston when he won the match. I didn't care.
However, he did hit Danielson with a lariat.
He did hit Danielson with a lariat. There were a lot of lariats. I think
there were a lot of lariats.
I think the plan is that from now on, for pay-per-views, PLEs, whatever we want to call them, we need to start counting how many lariats we have per show.
Yeah, I like it.
And if nothing else, every time one got hit, you would hear Scarps and I, Lariat!
It's a true story.
I was waiting for other people to come along with us, including the drunk guy sitting behind us and the smelly kid sitting in front of us.
So listen, I will comment on the drunk guys behind us because they were awesome. Okay, they kept our section at least laughing. They were chanting. They were loud. People were following around. They were great. And another thing, folks, we all like to go to live events from time to time. I think it's very important to practice personal hygiene when you're going to be someplace with thousands of people, because these places do get hot. You will sweat, just minor things to touch upon, but that is what it is. I've said my piece.
By the way, his actual description was, at the show, he smells like a county fair. And then I added, with broccoli.
And then I died. I lost it.
That's about all we can add to this match at this point, as far as I'm concerned. I think we've all kind of said that this just isn't what we wanted. Showtime, I know you said you definitely were not in on this match.
I like, this style wasn't my style. And you covered a lot of things that I went to as well. I don't like the machine gun chops. I don't have much history on Eddie Kingston, so I don't want to completely bury him or anything like that, because he's clearly over. People like him. People like his style. So to each their own. The thing I have the biggest problem is I just feel like they're burying Bryan Danielson. Like, he's dominant on regular shows, but every time there's a title shot, he loses. He's just there to get people over. I get how he's trying to put over the next generation of talent and things along those lines. I think you're going to see that again with Ospreay, because it looks like they're going to probably face off against each other soon. And he's just kind of putting people over at this point. And if that's all he wants to do, then cool, get it. But I think you're just kind of wasting his talent. He has more to offer than what you're currently getting out of him.
Yeah. What's next should be the Orange Cassidy versus Roderick Strong for the international title. Orange Cassidy is the champion coming in. Showtime, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one, only because I feel like we know my personal feelings on Orange Cassidy at this point. So I need someone who is a little impartial on this match to kind of lead this one, because I know me, I'm going to bash Cassidy, and that's not what this match should be about. So
I think this match had everything you wanted from it. I don't know how you could be disappointed on what they put out there. They had a great match. There was some, obviously, I rolled my eyes at a couple spots that are in there, but overall, I thought it was a super quality match. We both got this right that Roderick Strong was going to win this match. It was time for Orange Cassidy to give up the title. He had done everything as similar to what we were talking about Gunther, to a lesser extent, of course, because Gunther's run is historic. But Orange Cassidy wasn't even supposed to have this title. Like, he kind of had a second run with it, what seems like by accident. So, like, he had already kind of done everything with it. I think it's going to propel him into the next echelon within the company, which is, it seems like the direction they want to take it. And so, all in all, I thought it was a pretty solid match. It was like probably in the middle, because I feel like there was a lot of really good matches and a lot of not so great matches, and then everything else kind of fits right in the middle there.
Yeah.
But I had no complaints. I enjoyed it while I watched it, and everything that went down was exactly what I expected to go down.
So I really like the fact that for those that maybe haven't seen the match, Orange Cassidy came out wearing like a whole bunch of kinesio tape, right? He had it on his ribs, his shoulder, his back. And I thought it was just really, really cerebral, just smart for Roderick Strong. I mean, he was attacking Cassidy's back the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, he was coming in with backbreakers galore, right? Hit him with the Boston Crab at one point, which I thought was cool because I didn't expect it, to be honest. But he was really going after Cassidy's back the entire match. And I mean, that's what you get when you come out all taped up right here. It's like, hey, there's a good spot for me to go after. And he did.
So it almost pains me to compliment this match. I actually really like Roddy Strong. I've always liked Roderick Strong. I've liked him since before he got into actually good shape, and he was just in kind of good shape. I liked this match. I liked the psychology of this match, like you said. I like the fact that Roddy, who is the messiah of the backbreaker, had a guy whose ribs and back were hurt, and he just attacked. The one thing that I think helped save this match for me is right in the beginning where Orange Cassidy went to do the hands in the pocket spot. Roddy attacked him before it ever happened.
And so Steve looked at me in the beginning of that match and goes, hey, listen, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think it proves to what you said. You looked at me at one point and you're like, yo, Cassidy always fights with his hands in his pockets. And I've seen him wrestle once before this. And I saw him do that. So the whole match, I'm waiting for it, and Strong never let it happen.
Yeah. And it's really, it kind of speaks to what I don't like about it, is that his version of hulking up is showing that he doesn't care. And I think that's where I'm at with it. The only thing that I haven't liked about Roderick Strong lately is the booking of his character, not the booking of his matches. I think his wrestling has been just as good as it always has been. They keep doing bad comedy. And it's one thing if you do good comedy, but like this isn't even just like bad comedy in the sense that like, oh, it's kind of cheesy. No, it's just bad. Like the fact that he refers to Adam Cole as, and yells his name every time. It's Adam. I don't need that. I don't need bad comedy from one of the best wrestlers in the world. I need good wrestling from one of the best wrestlers in the world. I need you, and especially if you're going to be on the workhorse title, like they're calling this. This is their version of the IC title, I guess, at this point. I like that he's there. I like that I would like to see him have a good run with this where he is wrestling all the time with that international title. And, you know, he keeps it for a while. I don't want to see him and Orange Cassidy maybe trade it back and forth. I think that's not what I want in the world. It was.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna get that either. I think you're gonna see Orange Cassidy walk away from this and go into do a different program. I think you're being too hard on Orange Cassidy as well, to be honest with you. I don't think his comedy gimmick is that bad. It's not that good, but it's not that bad either. It drives me crazy with the hands in the pocket thing. And he uses the weak kicks, which is, I think, something I said I want to see less of, because it happened 3 or 4 times during this show. Though of all people, that's his. That's like his
That's
thing.
his thing. That's
So
his shtick. So and again, I think part of my issue with Orange Cassidy is the way he gets booked, and for a comedy gimmick to get booked so strong is, I think, where it comes in on my part. Is I don't like the fact that this comedy gimmick is so clearly going to get pushed to a world title spot that maybe they don't deserve just because they're the booker's favorite wrestler.
but I think wrestling is what tells that story more than the actual gimmick. He seems great in the ring. Like every match I've seen of his, I've not been disappointed. I haven't been blown away.
Super athletic.
He's very athletic.
Exactly.
And I think I think it's time that they steered away a little bit from him not caring. I would almost like to see him get into a few more feuds where he's angrier about it, like where he comes in and he's a house of fire right off the bat. And I think that's where it's at. Is they've shown it once or twice, and I'm in. I'm like, oh, maybe this is where they're going to turn the page on him, and I can get in on this. And then they don't do it ever again. I'm like, I think that's what it is I want more from him. I see potential in him, and I want to see more out of him. And
so, are you saying that you're not mad, you're just disappointed?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Thanks a lot, Dad.
Man, oh man, I thought I was the dad of this group.
Oh my goodness. So what do you suggest they do? Cassidy has a match, and the stipulation is if you lose, we take your tanning privileges away. No more spray tan, no more stand-up bed, and then he has to just be regular Cassidy. And so what? He turns ultimate face after this. What's the?
I'm not gonna lie. I didn't see where that one was going, and I am hating myself for not knowing that he was going down this road.
Thanks, I had to.
Jesus. All right. Next match on the card would have been Ospreay.
Move on.
Well, yeah, I'm ignoring that one at this point.
Come on, guys.
It was Ospreay and Takeshita. Though this was the epitome of a spot monkey match, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this match. I thought they absolutely tore the house down. They had 15,000 people standing on their feet at the end of the match. And here's the other thing. I don't think that they can pull off this match all the time. I think that this being Will Ospreay's actual debut, actual full-on contract debut, and Takeshita kind of having to prove that he is the future of what's going on in wrestling right now. I think they went out there with the intention of tearing down the house. Also, this is one of the few matches on this card that didn't have a title involved. And I love that this fight was purely for pride, purely for the act of knowing that you're going to be the next guy to come up, or that you're promoting the next guy to come up. Backstory into this, I'm still a little disappointed that this was two guys that are in the same stable with each other, and they're both heels technically. It takes, if you know the backstory of it, it kind of takes a little bit away from it. But the match itself was awesome. I thought this match was really good.
Well, I wouldn't say that yet. It feels like they're building to Ospreay breaking away.
I
because he's running through his own stable, and there's going to be only so much of one guy taking down his friends before he doesn't really have any friends anymore.
Yeah.
Particularly what's a heel stable, you could do good guy versus good guy for respect, but bad guys don't have respect. Heels don't respect that shit. No. They get bitter and jealous, and it's time to take him down a peg. And so I think that's kind of where they're pushing this. He does have the skill to be a face and come in here and be like the top baby face in the company. So we talked this. I think he might arguably be the best wrestler in the industry right now. He has all the skill. That match was amazing to a certain extent. I always have my gripes when I believe that you should be in traction, because these guys pulled off some spots in this match that they should never have gotten out of. They should never have kicked out of. And you kind of like it pulls you in and out. This match was the epitome of I'm pulled in. I'm so in on this match. This match is absolutely amazing. It could be a 5-star match, and then one thing happens where it's too big of a move. They kick out of the 3 count, and I'm like, oh yeah, let me sit back. I'm out now. It was a roller coaster of a match.
Forget about the background, right, and the backstory for these guys. The match itself, excuse me, for me had real Rocky Apollo vibes. You feel me? Like this match was intense. It had the entire arena on their feet, practically. I mean, there wasn't a quiet moment during that match, and the match itself I thought was extremely technical. And a very advanced match, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, the match that should have killed both, or the move that should have killed both of them, was the brainbuster off the top. I don't know if there was anyone watching the match that when that happened, didn't. Scarps and myself included.
Yeah,
and I know Ospreay commented on it during the media scrum, saying that he's never felt a move that put him in so much pain his entire life. I would have to go back and watch that specific area again to see how long it is between that move and like a pin, or like how he got out, how he kicked out, if it was a rope break or something. I wouldn't have minded that if it's like, oh, they're both so beat up that he just goes for the pin, and because they're in the corner, like he just puts his foot on the rope. I'm okay with that. Like that's just presence of mind. That's mental.
I thought he was dead after that. By the way,
I thought he was dead as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was a super weak cover, right? Like where he was just like kind of touching him for the pin, and then it was a shoulder up. They definitely ran that spot in that match where they were both so dead that he couldn't make a proper cover.
Yeah,
and that's why it was kicked out. Which I appreciate that.
I can appreciate that one where you're just getting the shoulder up a little bit to like nudge the arm off. I did again. Overall, I think this match was good. I think it was really good. I don't mind a match like this every so often, and it's one of those where you were on a big pay-per-view. This is one of their debuts as a signing. It's the other one who it's the first real showcase that we've gotten of him as a singles wrestler. I'm okay with this match. All around, I thought this match was exactly what it was supposed to be in this case. At the same point, if this is what they end up going and doing week in and week out, I'm going to get tired of it. But I think they're going to be smart enough to not do this every week.
I think if they do this week in and week out, you're not going to have time to get tired of it. There's only so many times you can do a match like this without Ospreay having to take some time off because he's injured.
Yeah, like
that's what it boils down to, man. I mean, you have to look at the safety of the wrestlers. There comes a point where, is it too much? I didn't think it was too much because I loved all the action. But that brainbuster off the turnbuckle, he scrapes down, right? I mean, you see his back ends up all black and blue, and
all types of
I mean, I thought he broke his neck, man. I really did. So, doing too much, as athletic as these dudes are, there comes a point where you can only hold up that intensity for so long, and it became evident later on in that match that maybe we did a couple moves too many, because now let's just say we're giving up form for the punch, and that's when injuries occur.
Yeah. I also think that when you hit such big moves a lot of times too, it takes away from what your actual, like, yeah, that move that you ended it with might be your finisher, but how was that move more devastating than the brainbuster off the top rope, or or the Phoenix Splash, or whatever it is that might have gotten kicked out of, and now your finish is, well, I'm going to hit an elbow to the back of your head. It pulls away from that a little bit. And I'm not saying that Ospreay's elbow to the back of the head isn't a devastating looking move. I'm not taking that away from it. But when you've hit 19 other moves that look 10 times more devastating, and then you end with that, it takes away from both sides of it.
So for the record, I want to state that I think all three of us are extremely excited for Will Ospreay. I think that we love what he did, what he's capable of. We respect what he's doing out there. And I don't want to make this like, I feel like we're nitpicking him to death right now. And I don't want to make it seem like we're shitting all over him, because that's certainly not what our intention is. Our intention is we're like excited for him to be the world champion of AEW.
Yeah.
We're excited about the future that he has.
Yes.
Right?
I want to see him have a future. I want to be able to keep watching him week in and week out.
Yeah. We all want to see him be an even bigger star than he already is. And to the same count, I've said this for the last couple of weeks. I want to see Takeshita get huge.
Yes.
I think, again, I think this was in fact my favorite match on the card, and I'm not usually in on this stuff. And for me to say that this is my favorite match on the card really, really speaks. Let me change that. My favorite my favorite thing on the card outside of anything involving Sting.
Yeah, there's different. The best match on the card compared to my favorite are different things.
Yeah.
The one thing I do want to see with Will Ospreay and even Takeshita, I want them to start listening to the coaches in the back. Yeah. Like, you have some of the greatest wrestling minds in the back that are there to help coach the talent. You have Arn Anderson, you have Jerry Lynn, you have Dean Malenko, you have Billy Gunn. These guys are legends. These guys know more about wrestling than I'll ever dream of. And if they can take someone like some of this talent that's in here, like there's so much raw talent in AEW, and get them to put together amazing matches, you're going to see like that. This could easily take over WWE if they could bring it all together, elevate their segments, get their matches to make a bit more sense, that not every time you're worried that someone's not going to walk away, and really bring the whole package together, because those guys have the talent to coach these guys into having the best product on TV. That's where you're going to get that happy medium, and I'm really excited to see some of that. You just need the younger guys to listen.
And I was really, really impressed with Takeshita, though, like you guys were saying. So when I was saying, is it almost too much during the match, that was actually me talking about that bump, that spot that Takeshita did, off the turnbuckle. I thought he was incredible to watch, and that's because I didn't know who he was coming into the match. Yeah. I knew who Ospreay was, and I love the stuff that he's doing. And Takeshita, though, I mean, I'm a fan now. I think he's.
That's what I mean. Like, these are two guys that you could build almost the entirety of this company around at this point.
Yeah.
You know, and they're young enough to do it. Like, okay, Ospreay's in his early 30s, so he's just getting there, and I think Takeshita is maybe in his late 20s. We got time. We can build these two guys up, and these are the guys now. They're the company. Like, you can make this those two guys. They can literally be your, I don't want to say Austin Rock, because they're not going to be that, but they could absolutely be your Michaels and Hart. I could see that. Like, they're going to be the guys that, hey, we need phenomenal wrestling matches forever, and they're going to give it to us.
Yeah, they're 30 and 28 respectively.
Yeah. So what if they don't kill themselves, or like destroy their careers or their necks or whatever? We've got another 10 years at least. Like, they're just coming into their primes. This is
of awesomeness. You see it, of awesomeness. Like, it's so exciting to see a match like this, and see where it can go. In the future. But again, like, it's safety. Safety is the thing. That's the thing. I want to be able to say it.
As good as this match was, could you imagine if they do get with the agents in the back, with the Billy Guns? I keep saying Jerry Lynn. I think Jerry Lynn is the perfect person to produce their match, to make sure that they get the right balance of safety and athleticism. And honestly, 3 or 4 years from now, and they're doing the main event of Wembley, I might fly to England to watch that match. Like, I'm hoping that we are doing this show then, and the three of us can go to England to watch that show.
Let's go, boys. I'm in. I'm so in.
But I think we've said about as much as we can on this match. I think we're all fans of this match. I think we're all fans of the two guys involved in this match, and I think we've eliminated, because like you said, Scarps, you didn't know who Takeshita was. You still kind of only vaguely knew who Ospreay was. And I know, Mike, you didn't totally know who both of them were at this point either. And I think we eliminated the doubt of whether or not they're as good as I've been saying they are.
Yeah, they're absolute rock stars. Like this is exciting stuff.
Yeah. And again, it's like I said, I think they're good enough guys. I appreciate Sunset Hard Hands. I think they're the guys that you can build a company around as far as your wrestling product goes. So again, great match. The next match, I thought it had potential to either be my favorite match or my most disappointing match, and that was FTR versus the Blackpool Combat Club, consisting of Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli. I really enjoyed the match. I was really disappointed with the end. Does that sum it up for just about everybody on this one?
This was my favorite match. Like when it comes to the style of the people fighting, it was a great tag team match. I'm a big fan of FTR now. Like I didn't know much about them beforehand. I love their style. The use of blood was perfect. I'm not a big blood guy. I don't like it when it's done the wrong way.
No, but it wasn't egregious. It was the right.
No, he had a slit on his nose. It was the perfect way to do it. It elevated the intensity of the match the way it's supposed to. It was done so well. At the same time, there was a moment in this match that completely ruined the rest of the pay-per-view for me. It was when Moxley got hit with a spike pile driver with the one guy from FTR on the top rope, the other one holding him, pushed both feet down, and Moxley's dead. Like that's what happened. They killed him in that ring, and then he kicked out.
Yeah, and didn't he know it? Like he stood right up.
He no-sold it. Like that spike pile driver should have put him down. Now you want to pull the pin away, being in a tag match, and let it continue. Do that. Like there's ways to do something so devastating like that, a move so devastating, and then allow it to continue to go. The minute that he no-sold that move, it was now we're watching a dance. It's completely unbelievable now. I can't get back into the match, and it took the piss out of the match for me. And because I loved it all. Like take that spot out, and I probably still love that match.
Well, so listen, you know the matches or sporting events in general, entertainment. When you're there at the arena or at the stadium, you don't necessarily pick up on all of the things that are happening that they're showing you, when you're on camera, when you're watching it at home. But that exact moment, Mike, no joke, Steve looked at me and he goes, "What, are we just going to no-sell things now?" He just pops right up like nothing happened. And I mean, it was so blatantly obvious because everybody in the arena was like, okay, then.
Yeah. Like it was one of those things. And again, we all say this all the time that we're all different levels of fandom here. Like, obviously on one end, Mike, you're kind of in the middle, and Scarps, you're the closest thing to a casual fan we have. And when I looked at Scarps at the show, his face just dropped. I'm like, we're doing this now? And he goes, "I guess we are. I guess we are." And then they immediately no-sold a pile driver on the outside of the ring. Like, what happened there? Okay, so I will say this. I get the fact that Moxley and Claudio came out in Road Warriors gear. They're not the actual Road Warriors. You can't just no-sell the pile driver because you are dressed like Hawk. It doesn't work. Especially, like, I'm sorry, Moxley neither one of those guys look like Hawk or Animal. Claudio's a little closer. Moxley looks like he should be running a plumbing company somewhere in Cincinnati. But, I mean, like, you looking like you're gonna, like, I don't get it. You're gonna, like, part of the reason why Hawk was able to no-sell a pile driver was because his neck was the size of most people's legs. You can believe it. Nothing that they've done before this has given me, there it is. Yeah, like those two guys, I totally believe can no-sell a pile driver. Moxley gets hit with a spike pile driver and no-sells it. And like you said, everything up until the last 4 minutes of this match, I'm in. This is
I'm in.
It was they pulled back Moxley and Claudio stuff. Not so much Claudio, but more Moxley stuff that I don't like. They reeled him in enough where this was a good tag team match. If they had just finished this the way they should have finished this probably would have been my favorite match on the card.
It was gearing up for my favorite match on the card.
Yeah. I was just super pumped because we found a beer that literally epitomizes Showtime. And it says, if you can't be good, be bald.
We're in.
I'm only mostly bald. Come on.
I'm just playing, bro. But we did find these cans, and I was like, well, I have to buy it. And actually, I believe, Michael, that Steven is sending you a can.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Yep.
Very cool. It's a little piece of Americana, you know?
The one thing that I'm excited about coming out of this match, though, is I fully expect this to be the finals of the tag team tournament that they're going to do for the vacated tag titles. And so, with that being said, I expect this to be the finals of it, and they can make it up to me by not doing the same thing next time. Like, you can do the full first half of this match, 3/4 of this match again, like verbatim.
Yeah.
Well, FTR is arguably the best tag team in all of professional wrestling, right?
I don't even think it's an argument anymore.
Okay.
They're the best tag team in wrestling. It is them. They are the guys.
I was shocked that they lost, man. I hated the fact that they lost. It is what it is. It happens, obviously. That gives them room to write, room to change the story.
Well, I don't want to take away anything from Claudio and Moxley because I believe that they won that match.
It was a very good match. For sure.
I don't think that I was not shocked. Like, this was the first one that we didn't get correct. Steve got this one correct. I didn't. So technically in the rankings, he's beating me by one. We'll see how that ends. But at the same time, like, I bought that these guys win. Actually, if the Young Bucks come out and beat either of these two teams, I don't buy that. Yeah, because the Young Bucks are talking a big game, they should have the tag team titles. I won't get too much into what happens later, but I mean, I feel like everyone knows. Anyone that's listening to this podcast knows what happens in the main event of this show. But at the same time, I believe that one of these two teams wins the tag titles, ideally against each other, and then, like, based on this match going down, for the record, wins it for me in the next match, and then they can put on a clinic to each other. Let these guys just wrestle each other 100 times, and I'll watch every single one of them on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, so long as they don't end it the way they ended it.
It's frustrating. I felt like I took that personally.
Yeah. Next up, we have Timeless Toni Storm as champion versus Deonna Purrazzo for the AEW Women's World Title. We both got this one right. This match was kind of exactly what I thought it was going to be. I would have liked to have seen this match a little earlier on the card, because I get why they did it. Again, I always look at the business side of things with it. This is definitely, unfortunately, the popcorn match. And I hate to say that because it wasn't a bad match by any means. It just wasn't amongst all of these crazy matches that they just had. It was not that. It was a good match. That's what it was. It was a good match. I don't take anything away from it. Like I said, I think this was a good match. I think they did some cool stuff. I think Toni Storm's character is great. I think her part after the at the media scrum afterwards was great, where she stayed in character, and instead of acknowledging that it's probably going to be Sasha Banks / Mercedes Moné, whatever we want to call her, who is debuting, making the joke of, I don't care if we're not going to talk about anyone's debut. Wendy Richter, if you want to come in here, I'll beat your ass too, or whatever she says. I was like, that's amazing. Like, you really are supposed to be stuck in the past. Like, you're talking about someone who hasn't wrestled in 30 years. Good for you. Yeah, like I said, I think all around, I thought the match was good. I thought, unfortunately, it was exactly that, though. It turned into the popcorn match. I think if they had maybe started the show with this match, it might have done the match more favors.
I see where you're coming from. I thought this match was great. I thought they put on a really good show. Two of the top women talent in the company. This is like the way that they structured the last three matches here. You have technically 3 world titles if you want to count a tag team title as the world tag team title. So like you're ending the show with your 3 main titles, particularly in a company that has 11 billion titles. So in that sense, I liked it. I actually think that Toni Storm has the best gimmick in AEW. I absolutely love her on the gimmick side of things. Like I can't believe no one else has done this yet. That was like, that's actually more head scratching. Like, how is this the first time we're seeing this gimmick? And she's doing it great. The head games that she played going into this match was awesome. Having the name is losing me, but having come out as her old gimmick was awesome. Like I fought for that as I learned what was happening in that moment. So that was great. I thought overall the match was good. Slow at times. I think that's going to be my critique for almost every women's match, because like it has like almost a slow start to get into the second gear, which I think they can kind of clearly do. They're trying to elevate the women's division. I think this did nothing but good things for the women's division on showing kind of the top talent. So I'm not there was not really much I could say poor about this match, except for, like I always say, like it's just a bit slow. You're right. Like you're coming from a lot of these huge matches, a lot of fast matches. And when you get into this one, it kind of brings the pace down a bit.
It brings it way down, which it's cool in the sense of bringing it way down, because then you get the Joe Hangman and Swerve match right afterwards.
Which wasn't a fast match either, to be honest with you.
No, but like it kind of brings you down so that they can bring you back up. And I get the idea of it. I would have, I don't know, it just wouldn't have been what I had done with it. I think I would have put this match I think I would have opened the show with this match and maybe have put Christian and Garcia here or something along those lines.
I will tell you what this match did that the other ones didn't, in my opinion. I thought the promos they cut for this match itself and the way it opened, their intro, was better than pretty much every other match, with the exception of course, Sting.
Yeah.
But all of the other matches, I felt like, the very, very short segments we saw, if any, beforehand, were underwhelming. This one, I was sitting there like watching. I'm like, oh, what are they gonna do next?
Yeah.
Like so I thought it was great.
I will say this because we keep saying it like this. Let's face it. This was 2 shows. This was the AEW Revolution pay-per-view, and then it was Sting's last match. So when we're saying like this is our favorite, or this is the best match, or this is our favorite match, or this is the best thing that happened, we're excluding Sting completely on that when we're saying it, because
y'all don't say that.
Because Sting is Sting. Like Sting packed the arena. The tickets were sold knowing that it's Sting's last match.
Yeah.
The thing, we went there because it was Sting's last match.
Yep.
I am invested in this business, and I'm telling you that I could have cared less about everything else in the world other than Sting's last match. That's all I was there for. I stopped worrying about what we're doing on the podcast and what I'm doing, or what our association is with wrestling, when Sting came out. I became a fan.
Yeah, much to my dismay, because that was the one time during the entire night that I was like, bro, get your phone out and record this. This is what people are going to want to see. And Steve's like, I won't do that. I'm a fan now. You shut your mouth. And I was like, bro, you got one job right now, and it is to record this, man. And it just didn't happen. But, it was incredible to be in the moment, and to watch that was something I'll never forget.
I'm also not going to lie. I'm a man enough to admit this.
You don't know how to use your phone, and that's fine.
No, that just makes me old. I couldn't operate my phone through my tears.
I know you guys are getting excited to talk about Sting here because we're getting closer and closer, but let's keep talking about let's talk about the matches we're supposed to be talking about, and then we'll get and we can gush over Sting in a couple of minutes.
So we've got after the women's championship match, which again, I thought it was good. We all agree it was a good match. I think it was just it took a break in between kind of the car wrecks that we saw, or the fast-paced matching that we saw. So unfortunately, I think the match itself just suffered from placement. I would rather have seen it even like third. Like I think I would have rather have seen this match where Kingston and Danielson were. And I think we would have got. I think it would have gotten a little bit bigger of a reaction from the crowd and maybe even from the fans outside.
I actually think, in all honesty, Steve, I think it's in the perfect spot. I would have liked to have seen more matches like this, like more kind of down to earth matches that told a story that, as Scarps had said, that had a build up to the actual match. I'd like to have seen a little bit more of that.
I would have rather have seen this match and have us taken off the scramble. Honestly, take it off completely. Put it on the pre-show or whatever. I don't care. I honestly did not care about that match that much. So I would have rather have had, like you said, more matches like this than anything else. Okay, so here's the world title match. This is my first incorrect guessing of the night.
Oh, that's embarrassing, man. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Samoa Joe versus Hangman Adam Page versus Swerve Strickland. If we're gonna give Scarps his due on this one, he would have picked Joe.
I'm not interested in giving him his due.
Well, I was right anyway, buddy. So pew 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 pew.
I thought this match, as far as the three-way went, they can be a bit of a cluster sometimes. I thought this match kind of did what it was meant to do. It really, really, I like that AEW started finally leaning into Swerve really being a babyface. I like that they leaned into Page being a heel, and I like that Samoa Joe was just Samoa Joe in it. I mean, there's not a whole lot wrong with what Samoa Joe does. I like that he's getting this run right now. He's another one of those guys that I don't think he's super old, but he's been doing this for a minute. And we're at a point now where we should acknowledge the fact that he's probably a little closer to the end than the beginning as well. He's been doing this at least 20 years himself. So maybe this, and he's been in some wars, and that he's getting this run is good for him. He's elevating the guys that he's working with. I thought this match was good. I thought the ending, I actually liked the ending. I really liked the ending. I like that, though, no matter how the ending happened or whoever won, that we didn't lose the heat that Swerve Strickland is getting right now. I think he's still super, super hot. And I think Joe is just as hot as he ever was. And I think we've established Hangman Page as kind of a swarmy heel instead of a drunk cowboy.
So I love that Joe didn't let me down. I popped when he won, literally just so I wasn't losing to Steve. He got a little fist pump from me when I got to that point. I was like, yes, about time, Joe. You stepped it up here and helped me out. So I like this match a lot. I still kind of hate that Joe was the third wheel in this match when he's the champion. Though I do kind of like the story that they were building for Hangman and Swerve. I wouldn't have hated if they would have just made this, like they would have replaced one of the earlier matches with Hangman and Swerve to figure out who the number one contender is. Like instead of the scramble in the beginning, like that would have been a better number one contender match than we kind of got there. So, but long story short, I thought this match was good. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. It progressed the storylines for all three men. I think we're kind of in for the ride of a Joe Strickland showdown. I hate to bury Wardlow a little bit, but I only think that he won that in order to be the one that loses next time when Strickland's there. And we start getting the narrative of, I never lose these matches. I never get Joe by myself. And when am I going to get my real shot at this title without someone else getting in my way and losing it for me? And then he ultimately wins the title. I think they're posing him to be the next champion, and then look for some really good classic matches between Strickland and Ospreay, Strickland and Takeshita. Like there's some really good ones coming in. Obviously, there's some Okadas coming in. Like there's going to be some guys that are vying for this title. AEW is actually starting to fall into the big issue of having too many talented people, and who is going to be the one that should be their overall world champion, and like how can you hold certain people back in order to let the next one jump up. So I mean, I guess it's a good problem to have.
Hot take,
but
boys. Tony Khan, next world champ.
He'll get in there. Oh, again, I would do it. But I think that this has kind of a storyline build into it that I think Joe's going to come out, have a relatively strong title reign, nothing too crazy long, but he'll continue to get these wins until he gets to face Strickland one-on-one. And that's when you'll see the handoff and then go from there. Joe, as you mentioned, Joe's 44 right now. Like, he's obviously closer to the end than the beginning. I'm not saying he's going to retire anytime soon. Who knows how much gas he has in the tank? I haven't seen him slow down. So I'm not writing it on the wall that he's getting out of there soon, but I think that he is the right champion for this organization right now. That's the reason I chose him to win, because I don't see him as a transitional champion. I see him as someone who elevates the belt to let someone take it from him, rather than we're going to let you warm this belt for a little bit and let a real champion come in, because he is a real champion.
Yeah, I think the loss is going to come about, especially if it's built up the way you just said, which I think is probably the best way to build it up. You'll get a singles match between Joe and Swerve at Wembley. We're about far enough out where August for Wembley seems like the right time, and you get that nice build. You get a couple matches here and there, and maybe even a match where if he's gonna go full face, maybe even Nana turns on him, or someone from the rest of that faction turns on them, like, oh, we're not part of this embassy anymore. Now it's us. Like, we're gonna screw you out of this match. And then you have someone for Swerve to feud with kind of off to the side that's not Joe, because if you're going to have him wrestle Joe, like, and not have it be for the title, it kind of pulls away from it a little bit. All right, guys. Do we think Paige tapped out just so Swerve couldn't become champ? Maybe.
They said that you guys didn't watch the actual pay-per-view on TV. They even said that on the broadcast. I think Tony Schiavone or JR may have been there at this point in time, where he said, did he tap out so Swerve couldn't win? I find that hard to believe. That doesn't seem like something that Paige would do. I like the narrative and like the speculation of it, but he's not going to lose that match in order to keep the other one away.
He did break into the man's house.
Yeah. He also beat up 3 referees that night to just make sure that he...
Oh, don't get me wrong. He didn't want Strickland to win the title, but he's not going to lose to stop him from winning the title. That just doesn't make any narrative sense to me.
Fair.
And as of that, Hangman has been suspended, so he won't be on TV for the foreseeable future. I don't know how long that suspension is, but he won't be around for the foreseeable future, opening Strickland up to focus on Joe. And then probably come back in at the optimal time for Strickland to beat him to prove that he should be facing Joe one-on-one.
Did you say the Hangman is suspended?
Yeah, I'm not going there. Keep going. Please, Steve.
Come on.
Please.
All right, guys.
Talk about Sting. Talk about Sting. Quick, Sting.
All right, guys. Let's face it. This is what we've been leading up to. Sting and Darby Allin as the World Tag Team Champions versus the Young Bucks. This is for the tag team titles. Me and Showtime both got this one wrong. Actually, I think Scarps is the only one who said that they might walk out of this with the tag titles a couple weeks ago.
I sure did, boys.
For the record,
which now gets me 15 extra points.
No, it certainly doesn't. Because if you look at the show doc,
because you weren't here last week.
Yeah. If you look at the show doc, I actually said it should be the Young Bucks. And I believe in that thing saying, I don't know if I believe that they'll actually win it. But I'm going to put it in here because I think it should be them, because that's the way you go out. I actually had done a little digging.
We're not putting asterisks next to your choices, buddy, because when I picked mine the week before, I said the exact same thing. I said, I'm just going to go the opposite way because I can. So,
well, since I keep the score, I make the rules, so I'll do whatever I damn well please. Steve, I don't know if you know this, but I do what I want.
Also, did you just blow a raspberry?
I sure did.
Hey, I know how to handle childish behavior. I have enough of them in this house. So I do what I want, and that's how it works. Sorry, bud. You make the rules next time if you want, but I'm not going to follow them.
I'm good.
Looking into it, I believe that what I had heard was Sting was the only one that wanted him to lose this match, and everyone else is like, yeah, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Which I fully buy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He's so selfless, dude. Like, unreal.
So
that's what you do, though. You lose your last match, you go out on your back, you put it over the Young Bucks, someone that he wanted to work his last match with. Like, I know we can bitch and moan all we want, saying that this should have been Sting versus Darby, but rumor mill has it, so I don't know how true or false this is, but that Sting wanted to work with the Young Bucks in this last match, and for that reason, I no longer will bitch and moan, because Sting can do whatever the hell he wants for his last match. He earned that right, and I am not one that can ever second guess him in any way, shape, or form.
So, guys, we could probably go hours, actual hours, and maybe days sitting here talking about everything that Sting has done and everything Sting has accomplished and every reason why the three of us, because I don't know anyone that's not a Sting fan. And when I find people who are not Sting fans, I call them liars. Because the fact of the matter is Sting did everything that the Ultimate Warrior was supposed to be, but he was also a great wrestler. He was also a listener. Like you said, he was humble. He was giving. He did all the things. We're going to do an entire show dedicated to just Sting. That is not this show. I know we've been building to this match, but the fact of the matter is Sting deserves his own show. So one of our bonus shows this month is going to be one of the few months that we do a double bonus show. We're going to do one for Sting and one for Mania this month. Because let's face it, the man deserves it. He deserves every bit of our praise. He deserves. Again, I know I should have been recording the fan reaction to everything that was happening. I admit this. At the same time, Sting walking out gave me goosebumps. Sting leaving gave me goosebumps. Yeah. Sting speaking brought me, as a grown man of almost 42 years old, to tears. As far as on a personal level, Sting has been one of my favorite wrestlers, was one of my favorite wrestlers, will continue to be one of my favorite wrestlers for all time. And if Sting wanted to do this match for his going home, all the more reason to. His kids coming out dressed as older versions of Sting, or previous versions of Sting, was amazing. They looked perfect. Him getting to talk afterwards and everything he said was also perfect. The only side note I have is I think that though we have seen Darby Allin since then, I'm pretty sure he's a hologram because he's dead.
Oh boy.
I can't say enough on this show, so I think we should save everything Sting related at this point for our Sting follow-up episode. Again, what do you say other than thank you? Thank you. Thank you for giving us he worked in 5 different decade periods. He's been in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and the 2020s. And for that entire time, I can't think of a time that I wasn't a fan of his. And, that's something. Like, how you have a career that long that you've been a top guy. All of it.
A top guy, bro. The whole time.
A top guy. I mean, WCW, he was the guy. TNA, he was one of the guys. We can talk about what they did or didn't do in WWE, but the fact of the matter is they still inducted him into their Hall of Fame, and he never worked there.
He had like 2 matches.
Yeah, but they inducted him before he ever worked those matches, I think.
Fair.
He's Sting. I mean, what else do you say about him? He's Sting.
Well, and as much as we'd all love to say about him, like you said, we're going to dedicate an episode to him, and I think that'll be. Unfortunately, we cannot pay this man enough tribute, right? Because of the impact that he's had on all of us, on fans around the world, and just on professional wrestling as a whole. So, having said that, we will get into it, but let's really focus on how amazing and how dangerous this match was.
Jesus. This match was a lot. There was a lot going on in this match. There were a couple points where I thought I was going to be disappointed because of how it looked like they were ending the match. The fact that they ended up going with it with Sting winning actually is what threw me off. But it looked like they were almost like they were going to have him do the job, but like really do the job. Like there were points where it looked like this is how they're beating him and this is not right. The person I feel the worst for during this whole match is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I don't know if he really signed up for everything that he got involved with. Ric Flair, I've heard rumors that after he caught the super kick, he may have fallen asleep under the turnbuckle. So that's neither here nor there. But
yeah, I don't fully buy that. But
I think all around, between combining nostalgia with what they did in the match, it was kind of everything that we needed it to be. I'm not a train wreck match type of guy, but this was the best way to kind of showcase, I guess, all of their abilities.
I mean, the match was an onion, right? It had layers.
Yeah.
I thought it had layers. Like you said, it was nostalgic. It was also current while doing that, right? And I mean, it was just Daredevil City, right? It was absolutely absurd, man. And Sting went out, and he went out hard, and it was awesome.
Showtime, you watched it on TV. What did you think of it all around?
This isn't my match. Like, I won't lie. Like, I'm glad that he got his high spots. I'm glad he went out the way he wanted to. Darby going through a sheet of glass is not something I was looking forward to, particularly when he just jumped through it himself. And like the pane of glass matches is not something I thought we would be doing in real life in the situation. So the match itself left me wanting more. I would rather a more traditional tag match, where you got the showcase, like the big spots from Sting. Like he got some of those. I actually really wanted to see him tap both of the Young Bucks out with the Scorpion Deathlock at the same time. When he wrapped them both up, I'm like, it was so early in the match, so I knew it wasn't going down that way. But I was like, oh, tap them both out right now.
Do it.
3-minute match, crush them. I love it. Let's give him 15 minutes to talk to everybody.
And then just talk to everybody, dude.
Yeah, I would have been, if he would have ended there, I would have enjoyed the match much more. These hyper violent matches are just not my style. And I know that people love it, and there's zero judgment there. You love it, go nuts. But like, I thought Darby might be seriously injured in that match. Like he was bleeding like crazy, and they showed it. Like that was real glass.
Yeah.
Like,
so
I
will say this.
I thought he wasn't going to get up, to be honest. I mean, he was down for a solid 7 minutes.
So the glass looked bad enough. When they kept going back and showing it, how he hit the chair though actually made me feel worse for him than almost anything else, because he, like, his lower back and hip just bounced off the chair. Like he like a human being bounced. You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, I didn't even really notice that because he went through a sheet of glass.
Yeah. See, that was the thing, is I noticed the sheet of glass, and then they kept replaying that shot, and I was like, oh, look at how he's hitting bad. That's not going to be good. And how they brought him back in was kind of exactly what I wanted them to bring him back in as. Like he didn't come back in as a house of fire. He hit one or two things and made sure that they couldn't come off the top rope onto Sting. And it was exactly what it should have been. Again, I'm not normally a fan of this type of match. I thought this match was as good of one of these matches as we were going to get. And again, Thank you, Sting. Goodbye, Sting. May you do all of the things that you want to do with the rest of your life. I believe Bully Ray said it via Conditos mi amor, or mi amigo. Sorry. I think that's, but he's also my love.
Steve,
He
tell him how
would
you
have
really
said
feel,
me
bud.
more.
I meant to say mi amor. I meant to say mi amor.
Oh, mi amor.
I believe we should just close out this show now that I've made an ass of myself.
I love it.
Let's go with Esquire's inquiries. Scarps, what's your question this week?
All right, so I mulled a few questions around to see what would be good, what would be bad, what would be silly. But I think I'm going to gear this question toward you, Steve. But Michael, by all means, I'd love to hear your answer as well. So, Steve, if you were to get the call up today to go to the show, if you had preference and choice, would you be a worker? Would you be a wrestler or a manager? And what would your character or gimmick be, and why?
Today, we're getting the call today. I would take a manager.
Okay, talk to me, Goose.
For me at this point in my life, especially if it's in WWE. My reasoning. This is actually a conversation I've had recently with people because they've asked me to go in and why don't I go be a manager? And part of my reasoning for not doing it is one, I'd have to go into the independents. I don't think that I couldn't be a manager, and I do think that I could cut a good enough promo where I could get talent over, or at least myself and the talent over. My issue with doing it on the indies is that I'm bigger than everyone, and I'm very big on the aesthetic of wrestling. And it's very hard to promote somebody who's 5'7" and 145 pounds when their manager who's standing next to them is 6'2" and 230. Now then, it's a different scenario in WWE where I could say, well, I'm with people who are all my size or bigger, and I can actually promote that person and do that. So I think I would definitely be a manager. If nothing else, I'd love to be a commentator. But I think if I was doing a real on-screen role, I'm at the point now where I could say I don't know if I want to take bumps anymore for the rest of my life. So it would definitely be a manager, possibly a commentator. I'd love to sit at the booth or get something behind the scenes. But I think character wise, if I was doing managing, I think I'd almost pull the straight businessman route. Just go tailored suits, almost do like a JJ Dillon with the Four Horsemen thing where I don't need to full on be their manager, but I'm there. Like if maybe I could get somebody where they could talk to.
If I had the power to grant your wish today and make you a commentator, I would do so, but I'd put you at the Spanish table.
Just because
and I'm going to leave it at that.
Because they're going to destroy it all the time. I'm going to be sitting there looking at a pile of rubble.
I just want to see you speak broken Spanish, Stephen. I'm not too dissimilar from Steve there. I actually have a cool gimmick idea that I would run right now. Less manager, but more on-screen talent without wrestling. Maybe a couple bumps here and there. Nothing crazy. Part of it would be wanting to be in the backstage area to kind of, I keep championing like really solid wrestling that makes sense. Like I'd want to champion that with wherever I'm at. But I have this gimmick idea around, I call it the We the People gimmick, with what's going on in today's world with politics, the way that WWE is responding to fans, having a fan kind of come out of the crowd and say, we the people want this, and be the voice of the people actually on screen. I think it get over really, really well. and leads to a lot of cool storylines where at first, obviously, I'm speaking of we the people and actually saying what they want. And then, the deeper you get into it, the more selfish you get. You can easily turn heel and say, the people want this. It's coming from me. So clearly the people want this. But then it just turns into what I want. I think it could be a really solid storyline for a long time. It could lead into a manager role where these are the people's champions or whatever you want to call them. I think it could be a really solid storyline. So I'm always looking for what in the real world could really work in the wrestling industry to get more people excited to tune in. So that would be my pitch to mostly Triple H. I think it works best in WWE. So Paul, I know you're listening. Give me a call anytime you want. I'm not hard to get in touch with. And I'll come in. I can run that gimmick pretty easily.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. That's a solid pitch by Mr. Showtime. Icefire, come on, man. You gotta have a little more enthusiasm when you're talking about this stuff, bro. This could be it, man.
Man, I'm just a podcast host now, man. This is life. This is where we're at. Yeah, like I said, if I got the call, it would be great. I think honestly, I think if I got the call, I would really just want to be behind the scenes at this point. I'm
going to pitch something to both of you guys. And for those of us who are listening on anything that does not have video support, I've got to tell you that looking at my screen right now, Mr. Showtime and Mr. Zapf look like they could be brothers. So it would be fun to watch them do some sort of tandem in whichever side they chose, but as some type of familial relation. I think would be absolutely hysterical. We've known each other way too long anyway. The two of them especially, that I think they'd be able to play off of each other in ways that would be incredibly, incredibly entertaining.
See, here's the problem.
We could, but I've never been confused for Steve's brother before. That's a breaking one right now.
It's just going to be really rude when we do that gimmick and then Mike just walks over and slaps me for no reason.
Well, then that's more believable as brothers, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I would then be 100%. The older brother, which happened to be younger.
Yeah, except for...
Well, listen, there can only be one silver fox, so Showtime.
Still younger.
All right, guys. I think that's the point that we should wrap this up. I thought that again, let's look forward to a great follow-up show with the Sting recap and eventually WrestleMania preview and things to that effect. Anyone who's listening, thank you so much. If anyone has questions, please follow us on all social media platforms. Please email us. I'm stevezapf at stillariat.com. We've got Showtime at stillariat.com and, of course, scarps at stillariat.com. Other than that, guys, have a great night. Make some money. Let's love some life. Have a good night, guys.
Adios.
Have a good one. Thanks, everyone.